What's happening, fam? L.A.R. movement still moving. Subscriber died trying. You see the thumbnail. Uh, do the families of the victims feel blackballed? And I've talked about this, I think, once or twice before. When you have these cases, nationally televised stories, that somehow, some way, are centered around things that happen with Black Americans. So, the Kyle Rittenhouse trial verdict, the people who were shot were marching, protesting what happened to Jacob Blake. However you feel about the Jacob Blake situation, that's, you know, it's part of it, but it's not in some ways. But the families, when you deal with the racial dynamics of this, the families are white, the victims are white, the judge is white, the lawyer is white, the prosecutor is white, the defense attorney is white, the jury is predominantly white. And I sometimes have to ask, like, okay, when white people see how the justice system, or just the system of America, can be skewed to make somebody not, to rob somebody of some form of justice, does it change the dynamic of how they deal with white America? Because in my opinion, I think it does. I remember the affluenza case. That had nothing to do with Black people, but it was like, it was a class issue, but it was still a race issue as far as white on white. Because it's like, I know y'all not gonna let this kid go off because his parents is rich. His parents rich, but we white too. It didn't matter. There was the trials when women had got assaulted, using the R word, and the guys were getting slaps on the wrist, these white guys, and the families was like, wait a minute, like, and it was one particular trial where I think one of the fathers was like, if this guy was Black, he would be in jail, no questions asked. So how's this? So you telling me because this guy's white and he did this to my daughter, he gets to go home? And when I see these type of scenarios, I think this creates a civil war or cold war within white America, when it's like, yo, is the judge trying to say we need to drop the gun charge? Like, okay, maybe, he's not going to go to jail for murdering my son or shooting my other son or blah, blah, blah. But he shot 3 people with a gun that he shouldn't have had in the first place. That for him was illegal to carry. You can't tell me he's just going to go home. And then all of a sudden, the Trayvon Martin thing flashbacks. And using Trayvon Martin as an example is because George Zimmerman was a civilian, and Trayvon was a civilian. It's not like a police thing, but then you can turn it around and make it one of those police incidents where, man, okay, when the police do this, they go home, but when the civilians do this, they go home under these circumstances. Now, the problem with this is, I think people feel like they're being blackballed because, say you're in a red state. You're in a red state, and there's a MAGA march, and a guy from some left-wing organization that's not Black Lives Matter, okay, comes out, with a gun, kid, and then gets into it with the people, and shoots 3 of them. White kid. And kid's not supposed to be from there. Same situation, just different. Kid comes from a different state. That's, it's a border, 30 minutes away, 40 minutes away, however you want to call it. and the same thing happens, the people are going to go, whoa, this, the Second Amendment people are going to go crazy and say, look, man, this kid shouldn't even have been there. Yeah, we have Second Amendment rights. We protect ourselves, but this kid shouldn't even be there with a gun. He's not even old enough to have a gun. He doesn't have Second Amendment rights. And I think that when I approach things in certain manners like this, it's like, I know in my mind, it's like the families are sitting there like, this is what we do to people. Because the judge seems to be biased. Then they say the prosecutor seems to be aloof, however you want to call it. So it's like on one end, it's like the judge is, leaning to the not guilty. And on the other end, you can say the prosecutor is leaning to blowing the case. And I'm thinking about the families involved. It's like, I know y'all watching. It's like, I cannot believe this is what's going on. This is what's going on right now. I don't like it. We getting blackballed because of this. Not to say they're going to somehow, understand the black plight, but they're going to somehow go, you know what? I'm checking out of this. Like I thought, there is no white privilege for these white on white events, which somebody has to have white privilege in these white on white altercations. And where the privilege lies, the people who aren't privileged are normally the people who are the victims of a crime, especially when they're public like this. So I think, these families feel like they're getting kicked by a political football. And they may or may not like non-white people, but I'm sure they don't like white people anymore from these scenarios, because this doesn't look good. Just in my opinion, I'm out. That's the question, though. Like, share, subscribe, or die. Try and catch y'all on the next one. Peace.